On the line with us is Jamal Abdi, the Vice President for Policy at the National Iranian American Council, NIAC, the Executive Director of NIAC Action. The website is NIAC, NIAC.org. And you can tweet Jamal at JABDI, J Abdi. Jamal, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me back, Tom.
It's great having you with us. So Trump apparently got his Muslim ban through the Supreme Court. I'm reading on some of the legal blogs that it was actually fairly narrowly decided. But, you know, what's your take on this? You understand this stuff and live in this world much more than I do.
This was not, it wasn't altogether shocking. It was narrow. It was a 5-4 decision. We figured one way or the other it was going to be a 5-4 decision. The court essentially decided, look, the president on the campaign trail may have said, has said
to bar all Muslims from coming to the country, and that he was going to put this policy into place, but that the policy that is in place after 3 attempts to do it actually is not motivated by religious animus. So the policy itself is actually okay. It's within the president's
and that's because he threw in two non-majority Muslim countries?
This is to Muslim majority countries. And, for the third ban, he threw in a couple of non-Muslim majority countries.
I'm sorry. Forgive. Did my interruption of you blow up something?
Oh, no, sorry. I wasn't sure if there was a connection issue.
Yeah, no, we're here.
Well, anyway, so I really think the takeaway here is, there was this question of, do you take away the president's authority to police who can get visas to the country and who can't? Can you prove that this is based on religious animus? I think because he issued these 3 different versions of it and sort of did some window dressing, at least this version of the Supreme Court thinks that this is within his right. Now, the real issue, though, is this is a political decision. I mean, I still think this is a decision, this policy, the Muslim ban, is motivated by a political promise that the president made on the campaign trail that is completely based on religious animus.
Right.
And then he had his policy people construct something that could actually carry it out in policy. It's a political decision. Ultimately, it's going to be a political solution. It's going to be, having a Congress that actually will act as a real check. Maybe this is within his right under the laws and the Constitution. Congress can change those laws. And so that's really the next step for this is going to be the midterms. And, does Congress have a mandate to actually repeal this or, do something to limit what this ban is?
And where do you see this? I mean, I'm not expecting a Republican-controlled Congress to do anything about this. Are you?
No, absolutely. We already know that they will not. Even when the first ban went into place, this was, Trump's first full week in office. And the first ban went into place. You had green card holders being denied and sent back or detained, chaos at the airports. Really the height of the political unpopularity of this policy and sort of the most ugly and visible implications of the policy with the airport protests and things like that. Even then, you had Republicans actually saying, well, this was not carried out in the right way, so it needs to be revisited. But there was legislation that was introduced that was sponsored by every Democrat in both chambers of Congress, and not a single Republican would sign on to that legislation. Similar bills to repeal the ban have been introduced with each successive version of the ban, and Republicans still, even fewer will say, okay, there's a problem with this policy, but none have actually signed on to this legislation. So, we're looking at a president who is at the sort of the peak of his power, given that he has both chambers of Congress. He apparently has the Supreme Court. So it is going to require having a Congress that does have a Democratic majority that feels it has a mandate to actually take action on this, and they could actually pass something to repeal this policy.
Right. So ultimately, this is a political issue. It's a political decision. Frankly, in all probability, I would think if Merrick Garland was on the Supreme Court, as the Constitution required, rather than this poster Neil Gorsuch, that this would have been a 5-4 decision the other way, don't you think?
Absolutely. And as soon as the decision came out this morning, Mitch McConnell's reelection campaign tweeted out a picture of McConnell shaking hands with Gorsuch, and no caption or anything, but the message was clear.
Yeah,
we stole the Supreme Court seat, and now we got this ban in place as a result of it.
Yeah, yeah, and not only that. I mean, the Supreme Court also ruled that monopoly is just fine. Thank you very much in an American Express case yesterday. I mean, it's crazy what they're up to. So Jamal, we're talking with Jamal Abdi, the Vice President for Policy at NIAC, the National Iranian American Council. What can Americans who are concerned about the direction this country is going in, particularly with regard to this particular issue, our relationship to the Muslim world and just the general racism that's being stirred and religious bigotry that's being stirred by Donald Trump? What can we do?
Well, so I give my take as somebody leading an advocacy organization. The first 18 months of the Trump administration, I think you referred to it in the last segment. This is a president who seems to be immune from the normal rules of politics. He doesn't make gaffes. Gaffes are political opportunities, and so the way that you actually limit his power or confront him should be through Congress, should be through the most representative branch of the government, and actually making lawmakers feel vulnerable that, okay, if they don't stand up to this guy, if they don't stand up against this Muslim ban, or they don't stand up against, trying to take on another Supreme Court ruling by passing legislation, that they're going to lose their seat. And I think it's not a gratifying message for those first 18 months when you don't see Congress responding. I think Republicans in Congress have largely judged that they're going to stick by this guy. And so now we're moving into the phase where there have to be the consequences. And this is actually a little bit more exciting because now we're getting closer to the midterm election. And now is the time to get involved in those elections, going out and volunteering and supporting groups that are, running ads. And if you still have a primary in your state, getting involved in the primary, because we have to make sure that lawmakers who are standing with Trump and not actually representing their constituency, that they feel the heat and they get, kicked out of office. And we also need to make sure they get kicked out of office for the right reasons. We need, the issues that we care about need to be a priority, and that is decided by how much of us actually show up. So Now is the time for political organizing.
Jamal, so well said. Jamal Abdi, NIAC.org. Thank you, Jamal.